Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is time for us to optimize our gameplay for our Demonology Warlocks. First of all, I personally believe that Demonology Warlock is the most beginner-friendly spec of the Warlock. In case you want to play with demons and you want to DPS for a while, I am mostly tanking, as you know, and occasionally I'm healing because I want to be in demand in my groups, but sometimes I feel like just pew-pewing, and I like pet classes. In case you haven't been following me for a while, you would not know maybe that I prefer, if I'm DPSing, I'm definitely DPSing as a pet class. Well, what can be better than the Demonology Warlock? So here I'm going to very quickly take you through my simplified, not necessarily super optimized for performance build of my Demonology Warlock. This is not a full-blown extensive guide. Let's get it out of the way so that people don't complain. It is for people who want to play for fun, who don't care if they don't operate at the peak of their possible performance. That is probably for other more pro guides for you. You need to look up those. And also I will offer to you the main kind of gem of this video is my personally made weak aura for tracking in the most visual way, front and center, heads up display style, tracking the main things that you need to do with the help of weak auras add-on and my custom weak aura. There are recommended specs. I know of them. Before people start telling me, Gyro, have you seen recommended specs? Yes, I have, and I'm aware of them. Problem is that A, it is not as much fun for me to do what everyone else does, literally. And secondly, like I already said 50 times, I am not after top Mythic Plus key performance. I want to reduce the number of buttons. I always, in all of the specs, everything that I play, my reduction of the number of buttons is my first and ultimate priority. So in this particular case, if you see some sub-optimization, it is probably deliberate, but it doesn't, it is not here to say, to discourage you from telling me what you would have done differently, especially if it keeps the spec very, very, very simple to play. So first thing that you will notice, especially if you are a little bit familiar with Demonology Warlocks, is that I do not take Summon Demonic Tyrant. I do not want that button. I do not play efficiently enough and at the level where me tracking that cooldown on 1.5 minute cooldown and summoning that extra Demonic Tyrant where it does, you know, what you probably would expect it to do, and that is boosting your DPS substantially. I don't really do that at all whatsoever. What I am also not doing, I'm not taking Summon Vile Fiend. Very recently they have boosted Summon Vile Fiend. They gave Vile Fiend, I think, at least Vile Fiend's abilities, a little bit of extra boost, and I think I even covered it in the patch notes review a couple of videos back. But what I do is I take Soul Strike because I like, yes, I know that I just said that I don't want extra buttons, but in this particular case I don't mind an extra button. So I do take Soul Strike, and I like my Felguard to be able to, on a very short cooldown, I like it to be able to on demand do that strike. And there is also a certain talent over here. Antaron Armaments. Your Felguard deals 20% additional damage, fantastic, and Soul Strike now deals 25% of damage to the nearby enemies. Unfortunately, it's not 100% of damage, but it certainly is very, very nice. So I have taken this. So these two abilities, Soul Strike and Antaron Armaments, in my humble opinion, add fun to the gameplay of a Demonology Warlock. Yes, at the expense of adding one extra button, but it certainly makes up for not having two extra summons, such as Summon Demonic Tyrant or the alternative to the Soul Strike, Summon Vile Fiend. So I am personally happy with that. What I also have not taken, and instead I boosted it horizontally, this tier of the abilities, I have not taken Guillotine, for example, because Guillotine seems not bad, yeah, for AoE damage. It is hurling the Felguard's axe towards the target location, erupting when it lands, and dealing Shadow Flame damage every 1 second. You know what? I tested it in many dungeons of not, again, the highest possible difficulty, but certainly the quantity-wise, I have tested it in many dungeons, just like I tested the rest of the spec, and Guillotine was almost never worth a button press for me. I have gotten so much more just out of direct tracking of Soul Strike availability, Implosion, and other key things that I'm tracking, and key things that have actually done quite a lot of damage in my humble opinion. So you're most welcome to take this build and to import it and to see exactly if it works out for you, or if you want to optimize it further. One thing that I'm going to say about the left hand side before you go yourself and at your leisure take a closer look at this build. Even here, even in Warlock core points at the very bottom, I've taken Inquisitor's Gaze as opposed to something else. It is because, again, I want the potential to summon that Inquisitor's Eye that does quite a lot of Shadow Flame damage over time passively. I want passive, as much passive as possible. Alright, enough about the build itself, and you are again welcome to import that string into your UI. Now let's talk about the UI. I am not even going to promote my UI anymore because I always use the same UI. I have two types of UIs. I have one for melee and one for ranged. All of my UIs are heads-up display style. I always have my the only probably add-on that I'm using right now other than weak auras, it is the details, because especially for DPS you kind of need to keep in mind that you are there to do damage other than some utility, and you are there to make sure that that damage is done to the best of your ability. Yeah, we're not all the same, but to the best of your ability. This is mine. The rest of it is a standard UI, absolutely standard UI, and weak auras are something that helps me keep my eye on this central line, play for longer and not be so fatigued, kind of like my eye does not travel all over the place. And I know that people who play one particular class for years and years and years, they don't need it. They don't need any of this heads-up display, any of these buttons in front of them. They have them somewhere there at the edge of the screen possibly, because they know what to press anyway. I need visual cues. I personally need visual cues, even though I think I'm reasonably efficient for a casual player who does not main a Warlock. I don't main a Warlock, so I keep my line of sight here in the middle, and this is what helps me. Let's take a look at my weak auras. I'm typing WA, and you can take a look at my demo lock group. That is the one that I created. Yes, it seems very excessive, but I really like it, and you might like it too. So I personally found that the most helpful thing for me is to obviously make sure that my demon is not dead, which again in something like you know, the time walking or something like that, where you are losing quite a bit of power. I wanted to say disempowered, but that would be the wrong word, wouldn't it? So I'm tracking my pet health over here at the bottom to make sure that it's still, I can keep an eye on it. Yes, it's over here, but it's a little bit small, and often you just forget about this. So something much bigger is here. And spoiler alert, I also had a version of this aura where I actually had this bar right underneath of these, yes, right in the middle here, underneath of these icons, but then I moved it away. So at the moment I think it works better. What I know that I need to react on is implosion. Implosion gives a massive amount of AoE damage, and if there are a lot of imps that are exploding at the same time, it even contributes to single target damage on bosses or tougher enemies as well. You can import the whole weak aura, so I don't need to go through every detail, but ultimately here in the trigger I am having a special clause that I'm counting the spell count of above 5. In other words, I personally do not think it makes any sense and any substantial contribution to your DPS to bother exploding less or fewer than 5 imps. So only when there are more than 5, this is when I want to be prompted. But as you have just seen in the footage in the background, it's not perfectly aligned. When you're going through some trivial content where everything dies too quickly for me to even ramp up my DPS, I sometimes just attack with imps and explode imps, even when I have like 2 of them or something. So I kind of don't pay particular attention, but these indicators, they become really useful in something a little bit harder like LFR or Mythic Plus. Next thing is Dreadstalkers. Dreadstalkers obviously contribute massively to your DPS. So what I want to trigger here very much so is I want to trigger whenever this icon typically starts glowing here, whatever the trigger is that makes it glow, that is what I'm tracking here. So I would like to track the spell, naturally. That's my first trigger. And my second trigger here is that I track the type of the tracker is the spell, and spell activation overlay glow is my second thing. And that is what I'm tracking. The spell is called the Dreadstalkers. That's how I do it anyway. If you know of better ways to track this in weak aura, please let me know. I love tinkering with weak auras, as you know. Demon Bolt is another reasonably good ability, same way of tracking. I also, in the first trigger, I say what I'm tracking, which is the spell Demon Bolt, and in the second trigger I look for the spell activation overlay glow. That is what I'm tracking as well here. And then Soul Strike. Whenever Soul Strike simply becomes available and not on cooldown, exact spell match, you know, that is exactly when I am using it. Naturally, I don't press the button as soon as it becomes glowy on the screen. I start pressing the button when my demon when my Fel Guard obviously is in proximity of the enemies. I don't want to waste the charge on a single target. I want to hit everyone at the same time. But that is what works really well for me. I do not know if I will have footage to show you to properly demonstrate that I actually can pump out pretty reasonable DPS in pretty bad kind of by these standards, pretty bad gear at the moment, but I am quite reasonably happy with my DPS, considering that I'm not a main. I'm not very trigger kind of happy on the finger type of guy. I do like this setup, and in this video, as in many of my other videos, I simply share what I have. In case you like this, let me know in the comments down below that you like it. Maybe it improves your accessibility of the game, your enjoyment of the game. If it does, please let me know, and I will produce more of similar videos with similarly simplified weak auras for casual players for other classes as well. And I thank you very much for watching. As always, please hit the like button so that more people can see these videos. YouTube algorithm works in very simple ways. It shows the video to more people, the more people like it. So please, that is the best way for you to let me know that I'm doing something right. And subscribe for more, as always. And I'll be speaking with you about something else, World of Warcraft related, very soon. Thanks again for tuning in today, and goodbye for now.
What are you doing? These specimens are very delicate.